Hey up guys! So continuing the Marvel movie marathon, today I'm going to be talking about Thor, which was directed by Kenneth Branagh and stars Chris Hemsworth as the god of thunder, Thor, who is the son of Odin, played by Anthony Hopkins, who is the ruler of Asgard. Now Thor is the next in line to be the ruler of Asgard. He's going to be the king, but he's developed a little bit of an ego, or a god complex if you will. But if you look like that, then yeah, you'd probably be a little bit smug and cocky as well. But Thor's hot-headed sense of entitlement lands him in trouble when he leads a charged attack on the Jotunheim frost giants, along with his brother Loki, as well as some other warriors. This starts a war between Jotunheim and Asgard, and Odin ain't happy about it, so as punishment for Thor's arrogance and recklessness, he strips Thor of his powers, his cape, his hammer Mjolnir, exiles him to Earth along with his hammer, but the hammer can only be picked up by someone who is worthy. Thor lands in the middle of New Mexico where he meets Dr. Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, and she is a scientist who is studying solar auroras, and she learns from him all about the Norse god worlds, and he learns from her the power of humility. It's really a redemption story, just with star-crossed lovers, demigods, and some fish out of water comedy. I wasn't overly excited to rewatch the first Thor film. It's not like I have any beef with the film, but Thor Ragnarok is more up my alley. However, on a rewatch, I actually had a much better time with it than I thought I would. It's got its problems, but I like how Shakespearean the themes of Thor are, which is probably what attracted Kenneth Branagh to the project, because he's a classically trained Shakespearean actor. But yeah, the themes are Shakespearean. It's all about banishment, sibling rivalry between Thor and Loki. They're trying to prove that they are men to their father. There's jealousy, power, there's secrets and betrayal. Most of this is on Asgard, but when the film is set on planet Earth, it adds a bit of levity to all the serious themes. There's a lot of comedy involved with the culture clash of Thor and Jane Foster and all her scientist pals. Thor is actually a pretty funny film. The last time I saw this was in 2011 when it was in the cinemas, so I don't really remember it being funny, but on rewatch, there were lots of bits that I laughed at. I think the funniest bit for me was the bit where Thor charges into a pet shop and announces, "I need a horse!" There's lots of little touches in this film which I found quite amusing, like when they're saying bye to Thor and they sort of bow and curtsy, as well as Kat Dennings' Darcy character just being a horny, adorable scientist. She even mispronounces the name of the hammer Mjolnir, which is so common. Glenn doesn't know how to say it. He's always going meow meow. I was like, no, it's Mjolnir. But it is a difficult name to pronounce. It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue. When it comes to acting performances in the MCU, Tom Hiddleston as Loki is in a completely different league of his own. The film might be Thor's film, but sorry Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston steals this film. From his very first scene, your eye is just drawn to him because of his gravitas. You can really see that Hiddleston was channeling his background in theatrical training into the role of Loki. Because let's face it, the character of Loki is a mineshaft of substance. He's the god of mischief, but the adopted son of a king and second in line to the throne, always feeling like he never measures up to his big brother, who is the biological son of his father, and also the golden boy. So yeah, he always feels like he's in the shadow of his big brother. And when he discovers his true lineage, he's at odds with himself. He's having an identity crisis. There's so much sympathy to be had with Loki. He's far more complex and interesting as a character. Magnificent work from Tom Hiddleston, and it's no surprise really that they've given him his own TV series. I also adore the costumes in this film. In fact, the Thor franchise probably has the most interesting costume work of any of the Marvel movies. I mean, apart from this shirt that Natalie Portman's wearing, what the hell is that? As for negatives, there are a bunch of supporting players who are very forgettable. I honestly can't remember any of Thor's warrior pals' names without going on IMDb. The film also introduces us to Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, and this is an even more bungled introduction than Black Widow's entrance in Iron Man 2. I mean, at least Black Widow got to kick some ass and leave a bit of an impression, but Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, oh my god, all he does in this film is he jumps in a basket, gets wet, and points his bow and arrow at Thor. I get why he's here, but it's just a lackluster introduction. I had so much sympathy for Jeremy Renner in Phase 1 because they didn't let him do anything. It doesn't get any better in the Avengers, and I'll talk more about that in that review. But the way they introduced him in Thor was just a joke. The romance in this film feels a bit forced between Thor and Dr. Jane Foster. I can't even remember if the romance gets better in Thor: The Dark World. Hopefully it has space to breathe and grow organically. Here it feels very forced. It's just like, you're the star-crossed lovers, because. Also, the dialogue in this film leaves much to be desired. At least in Captain America, the corniness kind of works for Cap's character, but in Thor, not so much. And my last negative is that this is a very CGI-dependent film. And I know this is set in a fantasy world and it requires some CGI and some suspension of disbelief. And like a lot of people, I find excessive CGI battles quite boring. As for world building, there is some value to rewatching the first Thor film because there's some clever foreshadowing of what's to come in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and it's where Agent Sitwell comes into this room and there's this shot of him and you see the reflection of his face in this window. It's telling us that he is two-faced, that he's playing for both sides, that he's on S.H.I.E.L.D., but he's also an agent of Hydra. That was very smart, and something that you'll only get the joy of discovering on a second viewing. In the end, guys, I would say I had a pretty good time rewatching the first Thor film. I would say out of all the Phase 1 solo movies, this was probably the most ambitious and probably the most challenging. But Kenneth Branagh does do a pretty good job of establishing this world. Not all the characters get an equal slice of the pie. There is some script problems. Not all the characters you get to know very well or even get that attached to. But the film does do a good job of you getting to know Thor and also getting to know Loki, who are pivotal to the rest of the MCU timeline. So time to ask those questions. Firstly, would I recommend it or skip it? I can take it or leave it, this film. I wasn't overly excited to rewatch it, but having said that, I did end up having a better time than I thought I would upon rewatch. So I'm gonna say watch. And last question, what score do I give it out of 10? It definitely has its growing pains, this franchise. I don't think it really found its stride until Thor Ragnarok. This one definitely has some trouble weaving all of its narrative threads all together in a cohesive manner. Having said that, there is fun to be had with it, a star-making performance from Chris Hemsworth, as well as an Oscar-worthy performance from Tom Hiddleston as Loki. So I'm going to give a score of 5.5 out of 10. And there we go, guys. That was my review of Thor. But of course, this is just one bloke's opinion. I want to hear from you guys. What do you guys think of the first Thor film? Where does it rank for you in all three of the Thor movies? And how does it rank for you in the MCU? Whatever you think of this movie, sure, let your voice be heard in that comment section down below. If you guys have enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you want to, hit subscribe. And of course, if you want to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, all that information is in the video description down below. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. For more things related to movies, TV, and popcorn culture, I'm Luke Effield, and I'll see you next time.